Hey, what's up, stellar guitarists? It's Amber here today with a very important lesson. I'm going to be teaching you the first 4 chords that all beginner guitarists should learn how to play. These 4 chords are the same chords that I teach to all my beginner students, helping them get to play as many songs as quickly as possible. If this is something that you'd be interested in learning, then let's get into the lesson. Before we jump into learning the chords, let's quickly speak about the strings because each string has a very special number. So starting from the thickest string, this is string number 6. Next we have string 5, 4, 3, 2, and string 1. Knowing the string numbers is going to help you with how and where to build those chords. So the first chord that we're going to be learning to play today is called E minor. Now, in order to know where to put our fingers, we need to understand that these are called frets. These blocks are called frets. So this block is the first fret, this block is the second, the third, the fourth, and so on. So we're going to be putting our first finger, which is our pointer finger, into the second fret onto the 5th string. Our middle finger is going to go onto the 4th string, also in the 2nd fret. So you can see they're stacked nicely on top of each other. This is called E minor. What we're going to do is take our pick and we're going to strum all 6 strings. Right, well done. All 6 strings, and you can hear it's got a very sad sound. That's because it's a minor chord, E minor. Now let's take our hand away, wiggle those fingers, and we're going to try and reform the chord again. So putting our first finger onto that 5th string and our second finger onto the 4th string in our 2nd fret, into that 2nd block. And we're going to strum all the strings. Let's take our fingers off again, wiggle them around. So I'm going to be treating this lesson exactly like I would be teaching a beginner guitar student, someone who's never played a chord before. So there's going to be a lot of repetition. So if you feel like you've grasped the concept, then don't worry, you can skip ahead in the video to the next chord. But if you're struggling, then stick around. We're going to be forming and reforming the chord. What this does is it actually creates something called muscle memory. Muscle memory is very important as a guitarist because when you're playing your guitar and you're singing and you're strumming, you don't want to have to be focusing constantly on what your fingers are doing. That needs to happen automatically. So by creating muscle memory in your fingers, you're able to form the chord without having to actually think about it. So by forming a chord, taking your hand away, and reforming, we develop muscle memory. So let's try that a few times. We're going to strum E minor, then we're going to take our hand away, and we're going to form it again. And strum. Well done. I'm going to fill you in on a little tip that I use with all my students, and it's called pat the lap. So this is a little trick to help you develop that muscle memory. So when we form the chord, we strum once. We're then going to take our left hand and we're going to pat our lap, which is forcing us to take our chord hand and completely take away the shape of that E minor. We've now forgotten the shape. We pat our lap and we now need to reform and let that muscle memory kick in again to form the E minor. So we're going to strum and pat. Strum E minor and pat. Strum E minor and pat. And one more time, we strum E minor and we pat the lap. So I'm going to come up here for a close-up just to help any of you who are still struggling to form that E minor chord shape. So just to go over it again, we're going to put our first finger onto that 5th string, into the 2nd fret, and then we're going to put our second finger onto the 4th string, right underneath, and in the 2nd fret as well. And we strum all the strings. All right, there we go. We can see our chord nicely formed. 1st finger, 2nd finger. Right, moving on to the 2nd chord that we're going to be learning today. We're going to be learning a C major chord. Now, instead of playing the full version of the C major chord, which needs 3 fingers, we're going to be playing a simplified, stripped down version of the C major chord. Now, I find that when I teach my beginner students the full C major chord, it's really difficult to play and it often sounds really bad, and my students, they lose motivation and they just don't want to play guitar anymore. So what I've started doing is teaching a much more simplified version of the C major chord, which only needs 1 finger, and you get the same sound with minimal effort and no pain with the stretching. So we're going to take that 1st finger and we're going to put it into our 1st fret, and we're going to find that 2nd string. There we go. And we're going to squeeze him. So we're going to be on the 2nd string and we're going to be playing in the 1st fret with our 1st finger. Now, when we're strumming, we're going to be strumming from the 4th string. So make sure you're not hitting the 6th or the 5th string. We don't want to hear those with our C chord. Make sure we're strumming from the 4th string down. And that sound gives a lovely bright sound. So our C major chord is a bright, happy sound. Let's incorporate our pat the lap trick. So we're going to strum our C chord from the 4th string down. And let's pat our lap. And we're going to form our C major chord again, our easy C as I like to call it. We strum and we pat. 2 more to go. Let's strum and we pat. And 1 more. Let's strum and pat. Next, let's go into a close-up of the transition going between that 1st chord we learned, which is E minor, changing to the 2nd chord, which is our easy C. So we're going to start with that E minor chord shape. And we're strumming all the strings. And let's transition to that easy C. 1st finger goes onto that 2nd string, and we're strumming from the 4th string down. Moving back to our E minor chord, 1st and 2nd finger, 2nd fret, strumming all the strings, and transitioning back to that C chord, 1st finger. Let's do 2 more. Back to E minor, stack them on top of each other, strumming all the strings, and then moving back to our easy C. 1st finger in the 1st fret on the 2nd string. You're welcome to pause the video here if you need to and just practice changing back and forth that E minor and easy C chord before going on into the next section of this video. I'd also like to mention that I have an amazing songbook which I've just created specifically aimed at beginners just like you, and in the songbook we explore the exact same 4 chords that I'm going to be showing you in today's tutorial. The songbook has 14 well-known and recognizable songs that you can start learning, and it will help you focus on transitioning between the 4 chords that we're going to be learning today. Each song in the songbook also is accompanied by an audio track, which is super helpful while you're learning to play the song. So you can pop that audio track on and listen and strum and play along to it while you're getting familiar with those chord changes. So the songbook is available on my website, so go check it out, and I've also linked it down below in the description box, so your support would be really, really appreciated. If you have liked what I've shown you so far, then don't forget to like this video and to subscribe to my channel. I specialize in teaching beginner guitar tutorials just like this one, so if you subscribe to my channel, then you'll never miss any of the lessons that I release in the future. Right, let's get back into the lesson. The third chord that we're going to be learning in today's tutorial is called an easy G chord. So very similar to the C major chord that we've simplified and we only use one finger for the C major chord, we're going to be doing the exact same thing with the G major chord. The G major chord is usually a chord that needs 3 fingers, also requires quite a big stretch and can be quite painful and difficult for a beginner guitarist. So in today's lesson, I'm going to be showing you how to play an easy G chord that also only needs to use 1 finger. So let's go ahead and build our G chord. We're going to be using our 3rd finger on our left hand, so that's our ring finger, and we're going to be finding that 3rd fret, so 1, 2, 3, and we're going to be playing on the 1st string. So there we go, right there at the very tip. And we're going to be strumming with our right hand also from the 4th string down. So the same strings you strummed for the C chord, we're going to be strumming the same strings for the G chord. So let's hear what that sounds like. We also get a very bright, happy sound with our G chord. Great work. Let's do another 1 or 2 strums. There we go. Alright, it's time to pat the lap. So we're going to strum and pat. Let's develop that muscle memory. Put our 3rd finger back into that 3rd fret. So 3rd finger, 3rd fret on the 1st string. And we're going to pat. Let's reform the chord, easy G, back into that 3rd fret. And we strum down from the 4th string. And 1 more, back to that 3rd fret and strum down. Right, let's do our close-up. We're going to now spend some time changing between the G chord and our C chord. So these are our 2 easy chords that need 1 finger. So let's find that G chord. Here we are. The 3rd finger goes into the 3rd fret on our 1st string. And we're going to be strumming from the 4th string down. So we're going to strum and let's change to our easy C. 1st finger goes into the 1st fret and we strum the same 4 strings. Back to our easy G and back to easy C. Good job. Let's do it again. Back to easy G. And back to easy C. Again, if you need to pause the video to practice changing back and forth between those 2 chord shapes, then go ahead. This will be a good time to develop that muscle memory between those shapes. Amazing, you guys. Well done. You have now learned 3 chords on the guitar. That is insane. Well done. So what I would suggest now to all my students is to take time, hit pause, and to just internalize those 3 shapes before moving on to the last and final chord in the lesson. So what we're going to do together is we're going to practice changing between the 3 chords, one after the other, just to help reinforce that muscle memory. So let's do that together right now. We're going to start on an E minor chord. I've put the chords up over here so you can see. So we're going to start with an E minor and we're going to strum all the strings down. Here we go. And strum. We're going to change to our easy C chord. 1st finger goes into the 1st fret. Don't forget to adjust your strumming hand to the 4th string. Moving back up to the E minor chord, and let's strum it together. Great work. Now let's change across to our G chord. That means we've got to put our 3rd finger into the 3rd fret on our 1st string, and we're going to strum down from the 4th string. Right, let's go back, E minor again, and to easy C. Back to E minor, 1st and 2nd finger, and to our easy G chord, 3rd finger, 3rd fret. So once you feel confident transitioning back and forth between those three chords, then let's jump into learning that final chord. Final chord that we're going to be learning in today's lesson is called D major. And this is probably going to be the most difficult chord from today's lesson because we need to use 3 fingers in order to form this chord. So let's get into how do you play a D major chord. So we're going to be putting our first finger into the 2nd fret on the 3rd string. Our 2nd finger, that's our middle finger, is going to go into the 2nd fret on the 1st string. And our 3rd finger is going to go into the 3rd fret on the 2nd string. And we're going to be strumming from the 4th string. So the same string for easy G and easy C. Now most of my students, when they play a D chord, it sounds like this. And that's perfectly normal because of the way our fingers are formed. So because the D chord kind of has all our fingers bunched together, it can be quite difficult to get a clean, crisp sound from the very beginning. So if your chord sounds a little bit like that, do not worry. With time and practice, that should sort itself out. So you just need to be patient and practice and persevere. So what I would suggest to help with alleviating that muted, dull sound is I would suggest curling your knuckles when you play a D chord and playing on the very tips of your fingers. So don't play with flat fingers. So let's do a close-up and I'll show you what I mean. So this would be playing with flat fingers. My knuckles are not curled, they're flat, but the shape looks right, but the fingers are flat. So I would suggest curling the fingers so that the shape still looks correct, but your knuckles are now bent and you're playing on the tips of your fingers, not flat fingers. The chord will now have a nice, clean, crisp sound. Compared to flat fingers on the tips. And let's go over building it one more time together. So our first finger goes into the 2nd fret on our 3rd string. Our 2nd finger is going to go onto that 1st string, also in the 2nd fret. And our 3rd finger, which is our ring finger, goes onto the 2nd string, but into that 3rd fret. And we're strumming from the 4th string. Before you go ahead and try and start playing all of your favorite songs, I like to encourage all my students to spend time practice transitioning back and forth between these chords so that they get comfortable and confident, because ultimately playing a song is exactly that, transitioning back and forth between chords. So if you try to start playing a song and that's now strumming and singing, and if you're not confident yet with your chord transitions, it could be a little bit too much all at once. So take a moment to just practice those changes back and forth so that your muscle memory can become nice and developed. So we've reached the end of this tutorial, and I think a really great way to end off the lesson would be to do a transition play along. So I've chosen 2 chord sequences using the chords that we learned today in the lesson, and let's practice together. So the first chord sequence starts on an E minor, and I've put it up here for you to see. So we're going to be starting on an E minor chord. We're then going to go to a C, to G, to D. And we're going to be incorporating the patting the lap trick. So starting on E minor, 1 strum, pat the lap, to C, pat our lap, to G, and to D. Good job, let's go again. E minor, pat the lap, to C, to our G chord, good work, and to D. Let's go one last time. E minor, let's change to C, and let's go to G, and end on D. Good, and you can practice that as many times as you need to in order to get comfortable with those changes. Right, the next chord sequence that we're going to be practicing today together starts on a G chord. We're going to then move to a C chord. Next up is E minor, and ending on our D chord. Right, here we go. Ready, and G. Pat our lap, change to our C chord, and we pat. Let's form E minor. Great work. And to D. Back to G. Great. And to C. Pat our lap. E minor. Good. And our last strum on our D. Alright, stellar guitarists, that is it for me today. That brings us to the end of our lesson. I really hope that you found this lesson helpful and that you learned something new. I would like to encourage you to please subscribe to my channel, like this video, and say hi in the comment section below. And I hope that you have a lovely day. I will see you in the next tutorial. Bye!